Budget 2021, and here's my breakdown. Hey, what's up guys? So if you have been anything like me, you have been waiting for this day for a couple of weeks. And look, I've done 2 videos on this budget already on what I think is going to come. And this budget did not disappoint. It had everything that I predicted, and it also had everything that no one else could have predicted that is going to see our economy and businesses and jobs retained and grow. Now, I was busy making notes when this budget was happening, and I made like 27 points that I wanted to reread about before I did a video. So my plan to do a live video as the Chancellor was reading his budget and give you my take on it really didn't kind of happen. And then I did think about doing a video straight away and rushing it through, but that's not what I'm all about. I wanted to do some research, give you my take, and try and help everyone understand the best possible opportunities from this budget. So let's get straight into it. But as ever, before we get started, I need you all to do me a huge favor and smash the like button, and don't forget to hit subscribe and the little bell icon next to it. We aren't going to have time to go through every single thing within that budget, and we're also not going to have time to go through just my 27 key points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through what I think was the obvious basic stuff, but it's really good news first. Then I'm going to talk to you about some of the real positives that wasn't really expected and explain those. And then we're going to talk about the big ones, the ones that I think are really good for us, and also the forthcoming tax increases. Now, there is lots of moving parts to our economy, and there is even more to this budget and this recovery plan. Let's make it really, really clear. This Chancellor is all about creating, protecting and supporting jobs. That was his number one goal in this whole budget. And even though it spills over to help different markets and different sectors, this is all about jobs. And we need to remember that when some of it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't actually impact some of what we think are the most important parts of the market, it's because this is all about jobs. So that's a really good place to start. So we all know that furlough was going to be extended, but what I don't think anyone knew was that it's going to be extended until September, which does again demonstrate that even though we're going to be fully out of lockdown by mid-June, the vaccine's going to probably be rolled out completely by then. There's a real sensible take that the recovery is going to take some time, but it is going to be a recovery. The predictions have now been nailed to a 4% growth in this year and 7% next year. That does mean that this double dip recession, or that the fact that we haven't already seen the bottom of the market, I said it on multiple videos. The time to buy was at the bottom, and that was in April last year. And I now think that with this budget and with the vaccine rollout and with these predictions, we're only going to see things increase, which is great news. But it does mean that if you were waiting for the bottom of the market, it's been and gone. So you've now got to really work hard and smart to find those great deals and those opportunities to now use what's been provided by the Chancellor in this short period of time, maybe 2 years, to really ramp up whatever it is that you're looking or hoping to do. With that, let's talk about some of the business incentive, because the employees are pretty much now taken care of. So the idea is to encourage new business and business growth to create more jobs. So the current bounce back loan and business interruption loans come to an end in March, and what is going to replace them is the recovery loan scheme. That's anything from 25,000 up to 10 million that you can apply for. This is going to be a really similar application process to the business interruption loans, because unlike the bounce back loans, which were 100% government backed, these new recovery loans are only 80% backed by the government, which means the lender takes some risks. So we're going to see a very similar set of criteria to those first business interruption loans, which I know some businesses and people did struggle to get. but they're there to be applied for the next 2 years. So let's wait for the detail to come out and understand where we as business owners and entrepreneurs and property investors can make use of those loans. Then it's the 100% business rates relief, which does again come to an end in June and then is phased out, dropping down to 2/3 and so on until eventually there is no more exemption. Now, if you're already a small business under the threshold, I think of 15,000, you get small business rates relief anyway. So you're going to be unaffected by this. You're still going to have zero rates to pay. But there is a mention in some of the detail about how landlords who are left with empty commercial properties because businesses have gone bust in this pandemic, who are still liable for the full business rate for that property, which is completely wrong. If businesses are getting this level of support and you own a commercial property that can't be rented or was rented but the business has gone bust, it's really unfair to expect you to pay that full amount of rates. So I think we're going to see some more detail about this to help landlords, which is a really positive step forward. Then it was talked about the current grant scheme. So the current grant scheme for businesses, which is driven by your rateable value, comes to an end in March. Now, this is really relevant for serviced accommodation providers or anyone who has their offices or even a letting or an estate agency. Those grants come to an end, but there is a recovery grant from April to replace them. But this is quite deliberately split into two sections. You've got non-essential retail, which is allowed to open up in mid-April, and that sector is going to be getting up to £6,000 per site. Then you've got the hospitality sector and a few other businesses which fall under that branch. And those businesses are going to be receiving up to £18,000. Now, there is very little detail on this, and we still don't know if it's automatic or you have to apply. But what we can assume is that it's going to be business rates driven because it's specifically aimed at businesses with premises that have a rateable value. So I think we can all assume that's how it's going to drive it. We just don't know what the formula is going to be. So let's keep an eye open on how much these grants are going to be worth. And then we can't not talk about the 5% VAT reduction, which is going to be phased back up to 20% for the hospitality sector right through until April the 1st, 2020. So we're going to see a nice saving for that sector, which is well and truly needed. We can't not talk about the property measures. We all know that the stamp duty was going to be extended. I've been calling it on these videos for absolutely months now. And even though it's been extended and then it will be phased out right through till October the 1st, where it will go back to the 125,000 threshold it was before the pandemic. So now we can see a clear road out of this, which is quite, again, deliberate. So people who are in the chains of buying properties for them to live in can see the target dates and what it's going to cost them if they don't hit those deadlines. I don't think it's going to be extended again, and I do not think the phasing out is going to change. So you need to be planning for this very, very early on to make sure you save as much money as physically possible. With the stamp duty laid out in front of us to start driving and buying properties on, so is this new 95% government-backed mortgage for first-time buyers. There has never been a better time to be a first-time buyer. Lifetime ISAs, 95% government-backed mortgages, stamp duty holidays. It couldn't be a better time, and I urge anyone to jump on the property ladder. I actually didn't realise how much 95% mortgages had been wiped off the face of the earth. I did several videos about it, but I didn't realise the reduction had fallen literally as much as it shows on this diagram. So it's great to see that dozens of lenders have already signed up for this as soon as from next month. So get yourself into a position where you can take advantage of all of these measures because they're not going to be there forever. That is the incentives, if you will, talked about. And I haven't talked about them all. Those are the ones that I picked out to mention, which I think are going to be more relevant to you and I. But look, this isn't without its negatives. There is going to be a freeze in the personal tax bandings until 2026. So basically, it's not going to cost you any more tax, but as inflation goes up and people's pays increase, there's going to be more people paying higher rates of tax. But look, that is a relatively low cost spread out amongst a mass amount of people, given the amount of support that's being put together. given the amount of crap we've been through for the last year. And look, I know the biggest headline here is the increase in corporation tax to 25%. I think we all knew something was coming, but look, it isn't as black and white as that. 25% is for companies that make £250,000 a year in profit plus. No, it is another 6%. But if you've got multiple companies, there's a threshold up to 50,000 where you'll only pay the current rate, which is 19,000. The Chancellor hit, which is what I believe the biggest cherry of this whole announcement, was the super deduction investment scheme and the ability to carry losses for up to 3 years. Those two measures combined literally are game changing for businesses. And I don't think anyone has comprehended how big this is going to be for businesses. Yes, 250,000 is a lot of money. And if you make that, one could argue you should bear the weight of carrying this extra tax burden. But there are ways you can structure your business to limit that, all legally and all within the UK. And then you can start to invest in your businesses and receive 130% tax deduction. So that means if I've got a business which needs to buy construction equipment and my profit is 130,000, but I spend £100,000 on buying machinery for that construction business, that means that I get 130% relief. So it wipes out any tax due on my total profit. Yes, I've spent 100 of the 130, but I don't have any tax to pay because I've invested that money back into my company, back into growth, back into creating jobs. And that is what this measure is all about. Lots of businesses pumping their money back into their companies or starting new companies to create more growth within the economy, which drives more jobs. And then deferring your losses for 3 years. I mean, what a great way to mitigate this relatively high tax increase with losses that you've got to carry forward in these really difficult times. I know it's quite short term, but you can really start to plan the way you structure, run, and allocate funds within your business over the next 3 to 5 years based on what's been announced today. And as we see more of the detail come out, there will be more smarter and people with far bigger brains than me find better ways to work with this new scheme to make it more efficient for you and I. So we must absolutely keep our eyes peeled on that. And then two very last points to finish on, which will leave, hopefully, quite a nice taste in your mouth, is that there's going to be no duty rise in fuel and no duty rise on alcohol. And then on a more serious note, I think one of the best sentences out of that whole budget speech was when the Chancellor said just a 1% increase in interest rates would create an additional £25 billion worth of costs to the economy. That's £25 billion that won't be being spent to grow the economy and create jobs and help new businesses. So I do think that was said quite deliberately because there isn't going to be any significant interest rate rises for years to come. So that's my take on the budget. I'm so sorry it's such a long video. I'm sorry it's a bit later than planned. Hopefully you've taken my steer on it and the key points that I've picked out on will hopefully make you feel as positive as I am feeling now. But that's it from me. Stay safe. Hope you found the content rich and I'll catch you all on the next video.